Hey y'all, I'm Nicolette Amarillas. I'm a strength coach and a movement and posture specialist, and today we're going over the half kneeling hamstring stretch, also known as a half split if you do yoga. Now you'll need a mat or at least some padding underneath one of your knees, as well as possibly something to help you keep stable. So you could put your hands on a bench or a chair. I'm gonna use this shorter foam roller. You could also use yoga blocks or even the wall. We'll start off by getting into a half kneeling position, so one leg in front, one leg underneath the hip. And I'm gonna bring this guy over to the outside of my front leg so I have some stability. From here, I'm gonna tuck my back toes. That just helps me stay more stable. You could have your top of your foot flat with the floor if that feels more comfortable. Before we get into the stretch, let's just talk a little bit about pelvic position. We wanna try and keep a neutral spine. So just make sure you're not too tucked in and rounded forward with the upper thoracic, and you're not in extension. Let's try and find like a nice, even, straight line from the knee all the way up to the hip and then through the chest. So eyes forward, chin is tucked a little bit, collarbones lifted like there's a magnet on the ceiling. From here, we're going to scoot this front leg forward and straighten the knee. Once I'm in an extended position, I'm gonna bring my toes up toward the ceiling, making sure that my toes are not turned out or turned in, but straight up to the ceiling. Now from here, this is where it gets hard. I already feel a stretch in my hamstrings, so this is already a challenge. But from here, I'm gonna just tuck in my hips a little bit, just to get a little bit of a glute squeeze here and to help open up my upper body. The stretch really begins though, if we have the mobility, when we start to come forward. Now, because of the relationship with the hamstring and the low back, when the hamstrings are taut or when they're being stretched, you're going to have less mobility through your low back, which means you might find it goes into flexion, like it is for me. We want to make sure that we're not going so far forward that we go into flexion. So we're going to slowly bring our body forward, listening to our body and feeling right before we go into flexion and then stopping there. So for me, that's about right here. I'm gonna bring this foam roller in front of me. I'm gonna open up my chest to create a nice straight spine. And at the same time, I'm gonna squeeze my quad, the front of my thigh. When I squeeze my quad, it's creating what's called reciprocal inhibition. I'm engaging the front of my thigh so the back of my thigh, the antagonistic muscle to the quad, can relax, and it helps me deepen the stretch. Again, not allowing myself to come into flexion, but opening up my upper body, trying to stay in a nice straight position, feeling a big stretch all the way down through my calf. Once I feel like I've gotten a nice juicy stretch, so like 30 to 60 seconds, I'll bring this leg back and then switch sides. Again, half kneeling, first find contact with the hips, little tuck, open up the chest, get tall, bring that foam roller forward, scoot the legs straight, toes up to the ceiling, chest is open, but again, notice when I opened up my chest, my back arched, right? We don't want that. Walking ourselves forward, putting our hands either on our leg or on an object, and again, opening up the chest. My toes want to turn out. Watch for that. Make sure the toes stay straight up to the ceiling. I feel a little bit tighter on this side, so I don't have quite as much range of motion. Again, I'm not forcing it. I'm just going as low as I can, feeling the back of the thigh stretch, but keeping the spine as straight as I can. Holding again for 30 to 60 seconds. And then once I feel that stretch start to relax, I bring the leg back safely and relax out of the stretch. Now that's a great way to mobilize and stretch the back of the thighs and even sometimes alleviate low back tightness due to tightness in your hammies. I'm Nicolette Amarillas, and I'll see you soon.